All right. We've got questions, and Nate Zegura, he's the Browns senior media broadcaster. He hosts a daily show on ESPN 850. It's Cleveland Browns Daily, and Nate joins us now. Nate, how was that feeling in San Francisco last night?
Well, it was a homecoming for me, so that part of it was good. Then once the game started, unfortunately, it was not so good for the Browns, and kind of symbolic of everything. The first carry of the game for the 49ers, Matt Breida goes 83 yards untouched into the end zone, and really, unfortunately, kind of the route was on there. It was not a good feeling, and it was very disappointing, I think, for this team, especially coming off of what was a good win and a win that you thought might be a statement win against the Baltimore Ravens, and unfortunately, they were not able to, capitalize on that and stack a win together. And it just looked like the 49ers had a great game plan and executed it very well. And unfortunately, the Browns couldn't get anything going. They had one opportunity, I thought, to get back into that game when they were down 14-3, and Antonio Callaway, in his first game back from suspension, probably had a first half he wants to forget. And Baker made a pass to Callaway, who was wide open, a little bit behind him, but certainly catchable, ends up, instead of being a touchdown, deflected into the air, an interception, and really that was kind of it for the Browns.
All right. As they move forward here, you got a tough schedule here in the first half, and then it gets a whole lot easier in the second half. But what is the remedy that needs to be taken care of immediately?
Well, I think, number one, this team needs to stop hurting itself. I think you look at the penalties going back to week 1, 18 penalties against the Tennessee Titans. The turnovers, Baker Mayfield now has 8 interceptions on the season. He had 3 turnovers last night. They need to stop beating themselves, and I think that's really a critical thing here in the NFL, especially this season with all the parity on both sides. I think that's number one. And number two, I think it all starts with your quarterback. You were talking about the quarterbacks from Baker's draft class before I joined you here, and one thing that we thought about Baker last year that seemed obvious to me was that he could play the position. That was your question with Josh Allen. Could he play the position? And last year you saw Baker Mayfield that hung in the pocket, that was decisive in the pocket, that was able to throw the ball on time and accurately into tight windows. His ball placement was excellent. His confidence, I thought, was excellent. And you looked at everything and you said, okay, well, we're just basically putting Odell Beckham Jr. in for Brashad Perriman. And Brashad played great for the Browns, but he was no Odell Beckham. And now you're seeing Baker kind of not look like himself. And I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things, maybe some with the offensive line in front of him. But I think you need to get Baker back to where he was. And really, he's done that in one game where he's really looked good, and that was against the Baltimore Ravens. And that was the game where the Browns offense kind of came unlocked, and they really put a beating to the Ravens, 40-25 in Baltimore. So I think it starts with stop beating yourself, the penalties, the turnovers, and then Baker just getting back to being the Baker Mayfield we saw him be a year ago.
Do we know if Freddie Kitchens is a head coach in the NFL? I know he is in title, but some guys are meant to be coordinators. But his temperament, being able to handle a big moment there. What do we know about Freddie Kitchens?
So I think it's very early in the process with Freddie Kitchens, but yes, I do think he is head coach material in the National Football League. The guy was the quarterback at Alabama. So when you're the quarterback at Alabama, you do have some inherent and intrinsic leadership skills and ability to handle big moments and pressure. And so I think that Freddie is, as all of us, would be learning kind of on the job given his rapid ascension here. I think that he absolutely has the ear of the locker room. I think he has the respect of the Browns locker room. I think he is a great leader in a one-on-one setting. He's a good offensive mind. And even last night you saw some of the good innovations that he was able to put out there, even though overall you would say that was not a good game. I think Freddie Kitchens is the right leader. They bounced back. The one thing I'll say so far, and it's only week 5, right? Now going into week 6, the 2 times that the Browns absolutely had to answer the call was week 2 against the Jets, and now the Jets were not a great opponent, but they did. And then really week 4 against the Ravens. You were facing going 1-3, 0-1 in the division, already 2 games behind the Ravens. And so you had to have that one, and they did it. Now I think this Sunday against the Seahawks, who come in at 4-1, is going to be a very, very big test. But again, it's one of those, they've got to answer the call. Can they do that? And then from there, can you get to the point where you can build and stack these wins together? Because that's all you can do. The bright side for the Browns is, for all the questions there are about this team right now, with all the hype that came this offseason, you're still 1 game out of first place in your division, and you beat that team that's ahead of you already on their home field. So for all things considered, it's not the worst situation to be in after 5 weeks, even though it feels very much like a team that has not lived up to what the expectations were coming into the season. And I'd go back to week 1. You beat Tennessee. Even with this loss, you're at 3-2. And I think everybody feels a lot better about what you're doing. But that was the game, as I said, with 18 penalties, and they were not able to get the job done.
The Browns should have as much energy as you have, Nate.
I like to be positive. You know that about me, DP. But I see a team here. I've been through a lot with the Browns in terms of the last 7 years, the records, the highs, the absolute lows, 1-31. And you see a team here that has a lot of talent. I think in some ways they're still figuring out how to play together, and hopefully that comes together quickly because you don't have much time, as you pointed out. You got Seattle on Sunday, and then you go on the road to New England, and then on the road to Denver, which they had a nice win over the Chargers this week. And that's not just, you can't just roll right in there and beat them at Mile High Stadium. So, yes, it's critical they get together, but there is a lot of talent here. There are a lot of good pieces here. I will tell you this, to give you one takeaway from last night. I came away very impressed with the 49ers because that defense and seeing them in person, they have a bunch of unicorns on that defensive line. 5 first-round picks. Yeah. Armstead is huge. Bosa is special. Buckner is huge. Solomon Thomas, and you go on situational pass rusher. That 49ers team, their ability to get pressure with just 4 is very critical. You go back to those Giants teams that knocked off the Patriots. How'd they do it? They were able to get pressure with 4 and play 7 in coverage. And we saw that last night, and that made it very difficult for Baker Mayfield and the Browns.
You sold on Jimmy Garoppolo?
So his ball placement last night was excellent. I liked him a lot. Back when the Browns were in their never-ending quarterback search, I thought that he would be a great guy to come to the Browns, and I think the 49ers got a great deal in getting him for a second-rounder.
Well, I don't think that Belichick wanted to send him to Cleveland. Right?
No, I don't think he did either. In fact, somebody once told me that if he were to come here, there would have been a Cleveland tax that would have made it prohibitive to do that deal there. But I thought his ball placement was good, in rhythm good. Is he a guy that if you're going to go and get in a shootout with Pat Mahomes, is he going to be able to just match him throw for throw, shot for shot? No, but in the structure of Kyle Shanahan's offense, and Kyle is just, I think, one of the great play callers in the game today. In the structure of that offense, Jimmy Garoppolo is very effective, and I thought he looked very good. His issue earlier in the season was they just had that sloppy turnover game against the Steelers. You take that away, he looked very good, very efficient to me.
Nate, good to talk to you. Get some sleep.
I will. Thank you so much. Good talking with you guys.
That's Nate Zegura. He's been covering the Browns for quite some time.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.